Let's do this. Hi, I'm Ray and this is TinyTableGames. Today I'm going to be playing some Lorcana in a more appropriate setting than I've been able to recently. So, let's get right to it and go spill some ink? I should mention, by the way, that this is the first time I've looked through these decks and actually tried to use them, so you'll be seeing my haven't really studied them before outside of looking at what cards were in it reactions, or seeing what the mechanics are and how they all work together, kind of based on my past experience with different card games, and not knowing what all the cards in these sets are, especially for Inklands. So yeah, you'll be seeing what might be some really ignorant or dumb comments just based on what I know about the sets, which is basically nothing. So enjoy that. Okay, so today the goal is to do a little straw man attacks, basically, and go through the deck, and much like with the old Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! Even, is you just see how long it takes you to get to 20 lore to win the game. I'll be using the Moana deck slash Scrooge McDuck deck, which is still a weird combination. I'm just trying to step through it. Got my trusty rusty rule reference, the included fairly crappy tracker for the Lorcana points, or lore points, or whatever they call it, life points basically in reverse. And let's get started. And yep, I'm not using sleeves. I am in a public space, so if you're particularly cringy about your card status, you may need to look away during this video. Okay, I've drawn my 7 starting cards. What do we got here? Maui, Minnie Mouse, Duke Weaselton, Flintheart Glam Gold, okay, Warby Vandercrack, Hey Hey, that's always nice, and Della Duck. So one of these I gotta dump into my inkwell and kiss them goodbye for the rest of the time. Well, Minnie is the most plain Jane, so she gets inked. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? Alright. With her inks, is there anybody I can actually use? I guess you set your ink like that till you use it, and then you definitely don't tap it, you just turn it sideways. Can't really do anything with that, hence that ends turn 1, and I haven't scored anything yet. Well, that stinks. Alright. Start of turn 2, cards readied, no set effects, and draw. Well, that's not great either. Okay. He's got good attack and defense, old Webby does, but I'm not really trying to knock anybody else out. And Hey Hey can drain somebody, so... Oh, who am I kidding? Hey Hey's going in the inkwell. Alright. Now, pay 2 for the Duke of Weaselton to come out. And if I'm not mistaken, they can't quest on the turn they come into play. And we definitely don't want to call it Summoning Sickness. So, drawing it for the next turn, since we're already at that point, with nothing else to do. Oh yeah, and ready those inks again. Let's see, we got Maui, another Maui. Man, all the Mauis. So not helpful. And I can't even ink them. Not too helpful either. Alright, Webby, you're out. And then we gotta bring, let's see, we're only up to 3 ink. Oh, I see, I should have kept Hey Hey. I didn't read the Maui in my belly. Oh, that was dumb, huh? All these guys are now useless to me. Alright, well, maybe there's another Hey Hey in this deck, so I'll turn it sideways, drop Maui in. I don't know what you think about Moana 2 coming out. It seems like the same movie over again to me. And Duke Weaselton will quest for 2. So I'm up to 2 lore on turn 3. Okay, readying everybody. Drawing a card. There's no... oh, a location. Well, at least I know those get lore every turn, so you are for sure going out if I can afford to put you out. And yeah, you're not even very expensive. So, am I going to toss Flintheart Gold Gloom out? No, what? For ink, I am not going to do that. Instead, I'm just going to pay 2 and drop Montanui out, which seems awesome. I guess you just put him in a line like that. Certainly not called a battle line or anything, right? So that leaves me with 1 ink, which is kind of annoying because I can't really do anything else with it. But I don't want to turn in this guy because I don't have too many other lore generators at this time. So with nothing else to do, Duke is going to go again for 2, bringing up to 4-hole lore. That ends the turn. Reset. That was kind of a dead turn 4, and I didn't increase my ink well, which if I was playing Magic would make me very concerned that I intentionally did that. Holy cow, another one that can't generate ink? Alright, so, you know, the interesting problem with these is they don't generate, you can't create ink with them, and you can't generate lore with them. So there's truly some dead cards you draw in this game, at least in the starters. I don't care for that much. I mean, what am I supposed to do with this? Other than just challenge, obviously. If you're challenging, I guess, Duck is pretty much a nice Star Trek red shirt card for that sort of thing. Alright, well, start of the turn. I still don't have any other ways to do that. I'm still holding on to Flint Heart because I want to generate those 2 extra lore per turn when I can. Start of turn effect, I believe that's when you get your lore for the location, but I will double check. Yep, that is correct. Alright, and then draw a card. Hooray! Maui's Fishhook. Shapeshift. Exhaust. And 2 ink, choose 1. Gains evasive, or gets +3, whatever that is. Oh, +3 attack? Yeah, attack. Yeah, neither of those are useful to me, but I can make ink out of them, so yay for that. Okay, so now I can finally do something truly useful, which is get Flint Heart Glow Wound down. Sorry for bumping the camera there. So play Flint Heart down. Oh yeah, I gained the 1 lore for the island, Montanui. Maui's still useless. I tapped out, excuse me. I exhausted all my ink, or used all my ink. I don't know, wrote with all my ink. So these 2 will be questing. He gains evasive, but who cares? I mean, that's useful eventually. And so I go from 6 to 10. Now we're finally cooking. Up to generating 5 lore per turn. It's already like, what, turn 6? Okay, draw a card, gain another lore. Man, those lands are helpful. Okay, Flounder. He is the only useful one, so just drop him down, bring him out. Get out of here, Maui. Summoning Sickness, excuse me. He's resting from being freshly drawn. These 4 generate up. And now I'm up to 15. Reset. Draw a card up to 16 because of the island. Moana, well, nice of you to show up. Huh, that's interesting. She costs 4, but she only generates 1 lore. But she does have a 4 defense, so I guess that's why she's that expensive. I'm sorry for the background noise. There's a lot of people trading pins in here right now. So bring Moana out. Can't do anything with anybody else. Generate 5. And we're to 20, just like that. So you've clearly got some cards in this deck. I'm looking at you, Duck, who are truly just there to run interference on your opponent, which is probably good, because I'm sure this deck as a starter deck, or just out of pre-pack deck, is not well constructed overall. The Mauis are nice if you can draw Hey, but that makes me wonder, other than inking my 1 Hey that I saw, is there another Hey to even find? Let's find out. Is there another Hey in this deck? Because that would be weird to hinge 3 or 4 cards off of just a single draw. There's another Hey. There's another Hey. So the Hey Maui combo is clearly a thing. So there's the obvious combo, the Hey Maui combo. Is there another Maui, or did they stop at 3? Takamura's. When you play this character, each opponent loses a lore. Wow, that's straight lore suppression, I guess, huh? Kind of like Maui's Fishhook again. Okay, so that's odd. There's only 3 Mauis that I saw. And 3 Heys. Why would you not make that 4 if that's one of your... Other than he's inkless, which is really annoying. Interesting. Okay, so I chopped up the deck a little bit to look at it by casting cost, or excuse me, whatever, inkwell cost. And this is kind of a slow moving deck. It's definitely not a speed deck. You've only got, what, out of 60 cards, 7 1-point cards. And then, I probably should count that, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 2-point. So, the chances of actually doing anything useful, it's only 5 cards you could actually set out that would be anything useful generating lore on your first turn. So you're pretty much just going to plop down ink on your first turn, and even then, boy, this is a slow deck is what I'm saying here. Alright, it looks like it's relying on a couple of combos to generate most of your lore. So here's what I'm thinking. You've got Dragonfire. There's only 2 of these in the deck. At 5 points, they're the most expensive cards you can play, along with a Scrooge McDuck. You can't get ink out of them, but it's straight character removal. So I can see 2 of those being in there just in case. You don't really have to do anything, just 5 ink and you get rid of your problem child. These are also inkless. Simba, there's only 1 of them in the deck, but he's your only 3-point lore generator per turn, and he's weak as heck, so the probability on that working out is pretty low. He's going to be an instant target for any character removal or just general challenging. So, I don't know. I don't think I'd even put this guy in my deck if I were them. It's a single card. Your odds on drawing it aren't that great. Obviously 1 in 60, even if you go fishing for it. But there's no real mechanic to do that outside of some extra draws I'll get to. The Kakamoras are interesting. I love Kakamoras. They're hilarious characters. They're just straight up harassment. For 3, you get a 3/2 to challenge other people with, so on turn 3 you can start bringing these guys out. There's 3 of them, so you're likely to draw at least 1. You can generate a lore with them, and most importantly, you can, just annoying because they take 1 lore away from your opponent. So at most you'll take 3 lore away from them, so as a mechanic it's a little bit glitchy unless you got a way of recycling it. I'm not sure it's that powerful. I guess you could make a Kakamora recycle deck, but I'm not sure how you'd go about that. Anyway, so of these 6 non-ink generating cards, only 2 of them are really interesting. The other 4 are just kind of like, hey, I know that character, honestly. So the next theme this deck seems to use is it's got a Scrooge McDuck, Gyro Gyarados, and 2 more other Scrooge McDucks, all based. So another theme this deck has is item fishing, basically, with Scrooge McDucks and Gyro Gyarados. But you only got, so you got 5 fishing items, or cost reduction, or 4, and then you've got 5 items in the whole deck, and none of them are exactly awesome. Draw a card if you lose somebody, 2 of those. +1 defense, which is nice, but at a 4 ink cost and a +1, I'm not sure it'll be that helpful. It's, I don't know. Seems like you could speed the deck up with a couple 1 or 2 items and get more advantage out of that. Maybe I'm wrong. And Maui's Fishhook, which is, unless you're trying to knock somebody out, which isn't the point of the game after all, you're trying to get lore. So I think if I were speeding up, which is my preferred deck style, and you can get evasion, it's just expensive for what it does. I don't know why it's rare. I don't like it that much. Maybe there's a better way to play it. If you know of one in the comments, let me know if there's a deck built around this, but man, I just don't see how it would be. So this next area is like a little mechanic with Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Now, there's a couple things that strike me as weird about this. One, the point cost varies per character. Okay, well that's fine. So Huey's 2, Dewey's 3, and Louie is 4. About the only main differences with Dewey and Louie is how many lore they generate, which is nice, versus Huey, which is only a 2, and their overall attack and defense. So they're nice to have as just slugger cards for cranking out lore each turn. And support-wise, the only thing that comes truly cool is the 3 nephews ability. If you have them all together, you can draw 3 cards. So that makes sense. I can totally see why you'd want to do that, especially in a deck that starts off as slow as this one. But the thing I don't understand is why they packed it as 3 Louies, 3 Deweys, and only 1 Huey. So it's a neat mechanic, but you're literally praying for this one card to get it, to make it work. And unfortunately, this is the card you need to go fishing for other cards in your deck. So that's just poor design, really. Either that or they wanted people to not have too much fun with this starter deck. Kind of a weird choice on that one. So then you've got the kind of minor ability, but mostly just sluggers. 3 attack, 4 defense, generate 2, can be evasive. Maid Marian, who is ironically one of the most expensive and strongest people in this card set, just makes it, can reduce other people's attacks, generates 2 lore, so. And the Duke of Weaselton, pretty much the same thing. So at least you've got some decent hitters on the double lore generations. Webby Vanderquack, only generates 1, but there's a lot of her, so she's kind of a slugger. And then, of course, as I mentioned already, the 5 1-point cards, which are just either a 1/3 or 2/2, generate 1 lore each turn, which I guess is okay, but definitely seems like a slow start. Good old Grandma Tala here, 3/3 for 4, 1 point of lore, and let you check the top of your deck and scroll it through. This is just a good utility card. I don't know why you would never not have this card in your deck, all things considered. This one can really save your bacon, I would imagine. At least the equivalent certainly does in some other card games. The lands in this deck are kind of part of the strategy. You've got Agrabah, which is pretty nice, for 3, generating 2 each turn. I can't imagine your opponent leaving that unchallenged for very long, because that's too good, and it only costs 1 to move a character to it. Montanui, which recycles your characters into ink, which is a little grim, but certainly helpful. And then you've got this interesting mechanic with the Haze and Voyage. If you manage to get a Voyage, move 2 characters for free to the same location, and if Haze out in play, you can start tapping people's lore. So between the Kakamoras, which would be amusing to use for this, since that's what they do when they come into play too, with Haze out, again, I don't know if you can stack these. I couldn't find anything directly in the rules, but I'll have to go check the official tournament rules to see if that's the case, because you can have multiple Haze out at once. That would be remarkable and probably too powerful. So the final combo setup that I can see in this deck relies on Cogsworth and Recklessness. So there's 2 Cogworths, which, okay, but there's 3 Mauis and 3 Deladucks. So that's 6 Reckless cards, and 2 Cogsworth to trip it. So any character with Reckless, gain 1 lore, and that just seems to be a permanent ability of him. So they don't even have to quest, all they have to do is tap, exhaust themselves. So that's kind of interesting. Alternatively, I guess, when it's balanced with Hey, it loses the Reckless ability. So to a certain extent, you can use Maui in either direction as long as you have either a Cogsworth or a Hey out, which makes me think that there should be more than 2 Cogsworth in this deck, since that seems to be one of the main mechanics, given they put 6 Reckless cards in here. And finally, you've got Moana. This comes back to even though it's a 5 cost and a 4/4 for 2 lore, it's probably worth swapping out a couple of those other 5 cost cards and putting a couple more Moana leaders in. Because if she lets you ready all the cards at a location, since they don't have to quest to generate lore, you could tap and turn it into a 2 or 3 turn killer. So there's definitely some interesting possibilities with this. So it's like multiple things. You got Huey, Dewey, and Louie for card fishing, but they shorted you on one of the cards you need to make that work. You got Grandma, who's great. 3 of those, probably your best chance of finding it. You've got the Recklessness combined with Cogsworth, but they only gave you 2 of him. And Moana resetting it, but they only gave you 1 of her. So it's like they gave you several potentials, but fully intending you to have to go buy more cards to make this work in any kind of way. They gave you the idea of some cool combos, but they didn't give you a really good way of executing them, except super rarely, which I assume is entirely on purpose, to make people go, oh, hey, cool. You know what I really need to do is go get some more cards. So there you have it. The deck with Scrooge McDuck and Moana is overall pretty interesting. It's definitely rigged to make you want to go buy more cards, because the mechanisms that are in it you can find once in a while, but it's not terribly efficient, and you're definitely not going to win many games if you go to your local tournament or your local game store and just sit down and start playing, unless everybody's playing with starter decks also. Of course, that's just my opinion after the first starter deck. Maybe that one's just junky and the rest of them will be amazing. The next one I do is the other starter deck I picked up out of Inklands, which is the Dalmatian deck. So stick around for that if you like it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave comments either way, and don't worry, more Battletech and whatnot is coming, along with some GMT games. I'm Ray, and this has been Tiny Table Games. Have a great day.